Welcome to the Book Brothers podcast, the only podcast where we
All
talk
good.
about books. There are no other podcasts that do this, so only follow this show on
Yes.
YouTube. My name is Adrian David, aka Books Too Big on TikTok and social medias in general. With me, as always, is Mr. David Cardoso, aka Baby
Yes.
Sagan
Yeah.
on the
Baby
internets
Sagan
as
on my
well.
YouTube. Yeah. What's
Did,
up?
did you know that I
I
have a
was
movie
thinking,
podcast, by the way?
oh, a movie podcast. Yeah, maybe we could. We could do a book movie podcast. I
No,
like your
no.
idea of a book movie podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
did you know that I host another podcast called Never Seen It, which is about
Yeah.
movies?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. And I know you invited me too. So maybe we'll do that eventually. But
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to
yeah, that'd be
we'll
cool.
do a little cross
I think it'd be fun. Yeah. I think it'd be
promotion.
fun. I feel like there's lots of good movies. We could do Dune. We could do all the sci-fi. Like that'd be really fun.
Dune would be great. I'm not gonna reread
Or
it again. I'll tell you that right now. I'm gonna pull up some Spark Notes because
okay. All right.
yeah, I love
Okay.
the movies though, man.
Yeah.
Denis Villeneuve, oof,
Oh, he's
so
great. He's
good,
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
so good. But anyway,
Yeah. For sure.
what's on the docket today, David? We're
Oh
talking
yeah.
about Aldous
Aldous.
Huxley's
Yeah.
Brave New World. There it is, right
There's
there.
Adrian's
I can't get
cover.
it to focus, but
Yeah, there's my cover here. There's a naked
yeah.
woman on it, so that's cool. Oh yeah, there's your copy. Yeah, that's the copy that I wanted to get. I was gonna ask you about that. Like I seen copies like that. That's a pretty cool cover. I don't know what it symbolizes though. What do
I
you
don't know.
think that?
I don't know either because I see like a mechanism right here of some sort, but it should have
Yeah,
been like a pill, a
a
drug or
pill.
something. Because
Oh
Soma,
yeah, the pills. Yeah, because it looks like it's almost like a gear for a head or something like that. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, mine is a 1970s copy right here because
that's
it's from
cool
a TV
though.
show. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like a TV show, and so they use some of the characters from the show. So that's my copy.
Oh, interesting.
It's all ripped
Interesting.
up a little bit too.
I
It's kind
like
of old.
vintage copies. For our listeners who have not read it and don't know anything about it,
Yeah.
in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, humanity has traded freedom for comfort, truth for stability, and love for set in a distant future where people are genetically engineered, mass produced, and kept in line with feel good drugs, Soma, and
Mhm.
constant entertainment. The story follows three outsiders, Bernard, Helmholtz, and John the Savage, as they each rebel against a society that values happiness over humanity. It's a chilling, satirical look at a world that got everything it wanted and lost its soul in the process. I love that
Uh,
summary.
yeah, that's a pretty good
Thanks,
song.
AI.
That chat GPT telling us summarizing Brave New
Listen,
World.
you got to work more efficiently, not harder. That's what I
Yeah, well,
always
AI is a good tool. So
tool.
yeah,
People talk about, but Grammarly is technically AI. No one gives a
yeah,
hoot about that.
rare.
No, but never mind all that. Let's get into the book. I want to ask you though,
Yeah.
what aspect of this world do you see currently in our world, David? I'm curious.
Oh, for Brave New World, definitely. I remember. So this is the second time I read Brave New World. I would say both instances that I've read it, it's definitely like entertainment. I would say like it connects with the fact that people are so entertained and so distracted. So our culture of distraction in our real world really mirrors a lot of what's going on with Brave New World as far as our culture of distraction and entertainment. Lots of movies, lots of music. The characters in here, like I forget the girl's name, but a lot of the characters in here go like dancing, they go to parties, and of course they have drugs. And so there's a ton of distractions, ton of feel good pleasure. It's all pleasure. It's all feel good. It's all make me feel good, distract me, distract from like the difficulties of life and the reality of some of the things in life that you have to go through. That one to me, like, I think the more technology we see in our society, speaking of AI, like, I think it'll make things easier, but it will make it more distracted, yeah, at the same time. So that is the big one that I think is pretty interesting because Huxley, I think, wrote this, I think it was in the 30s. Is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's the 30s,
I believe so.
40s, 30s
Yeah.
or 40s. It says 32 in 1946. But I feel like it's a definitely, he probably saw a lot of that even at that time in the 40s and 50s because he was
Well, it
already
was
pretty
published in
wealthy.
32, according to Google.
Yeah, 32. But I know he
That's
was from a
that's
wealthy,
pre-World War II, David. That's crazy.
yes. But he's also from a wealthy family, as I talked to you about. And so I think he saw some of the new technology coming online because at that point they had like planes and they had other military equipment. So he saw what was going on and he's wealthy. He's probably in a well-off family. So from his perch, he saw that, oh, this technology is going to sweep through. This is going to change everything. So he already saw how it was distracting probably a lot of the wealthy people too. And he saw, so for me, it's almost like a prediction. And now we see it. Me and you are talking here. We're zooming with each other right here. Like we're communicating with each other. Now, what we're doing is way cooler. It's more real because we're talking about literature. So we're not trying to distract ourselves with like empty calories, so to speak.
That's a
No
good way
offense
to,
for
I like
people who
that.
like
Empty calories. Yeah.
empty calories. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I was just connected with technology, distraction, entertainment. So what do you think, Adrian?
I think what stood out to me the most was the complete lack of empathy in the, what's it called? The state world or the state.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a name for yeah, just like the
It,
state
it
or
was called like the grants. I should know this. I have a bunch of
said
notes
a
here,
few
but
times.
basically, yeah, it's the world that Huxley creates where, as mentioned earlier, humans are mass produced in a very specific
Yeah,
caste system, and there's no need for there's no need for religion anymore, which I can get down with, by the way. But
that's a good point.
there's no need for empathy. There's no need for having feeling love, feeling
Yeah,
basically the things that actually make us human.
yeah,
It's lack of emotions because you
yeah,
don't need emotions. The world is perfect.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of
There's
that. Yeah,
no a shortage of food or shelter or whatever. There's no shortage of entertainment.
yeah,
You start to feel down a little bit, you take some Soma. You start to feel this, you take some Soma. You start to feel so it's
yeah.
and there's no need to really care about your fellow man, which I think the
Mhm.
best chapter in the book was I think it was chapter 14 or 15 where he's talking to what's his name? Something Mond, like the main guy,
Mustafa Mond.
Mustafa
What a name.
Mond.
What a name.
And they're debating Shakespeare and stuff and
Yeah,
like
this is
what
some
it means
Shakespeare
to
talk
like,
moment.
yeah. And Mustafa Mond basically says there's no need to suffer. We got rid of suffering. We got rid of
Yeah.
John the Savage. Is I would rather suffer and feel
Mhm.
something
Mhm.
than not.
Yeah.
That's like the what do you call it? The summary of that chapter is
That would be the big theme. Like you just summed up the big theme of the book is ultimately
yeah,
that you have John the Savage who he wants to deal with reality and the fact that there is suffering. Whereas
yeah.
Mustafa Mond is like, hey, we made this society so you don't have to suffer. But he would rather have all the tears and the crappiness of life and just the difficulty. He said it's not real if you just get rid of it all. If everyone's on Soma and
Right.
yeah,
That's the thing is that Mustafa Mon basically says, well, he doesn't say it, but the theme is we have destroyed our humanity. We don't need
yeah,
because they don't think they need it. And John,
yeah,
I hate that they. It's funny. It makes sense. They call him John the Savage, quote unquote,
yeah.
because they find him in a New Mexican Indian reservation.
Mhm.
But he's not a savage at all. He's actually very well read.
Is he light skinned or is he dark? I forget.
That's an interesting question. I
Bring
feel
it
like
up.
they touch on
Huxley
that
bring it up.
a little bit in his physical appearance, but my point is that I thought it was funny how John the Savage is
Mhm.
very well read. Like he quotes Shakespeare,
Yeah.
like he
Yeah.
knows,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he actually says the title of the book at one point several times. Oh brave new
Yes.
world, which I
Brave New World.
believe
Yeah.
is
It's from
actually in a
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare
It's
play
from
or something.
Shakespeare. I think is it from King Lear, I think.
It's one of those, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to look it
Yeah,
up.
it is Shakespeare. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he's totally an outsider who he's not the one that gets it, but he like gets humanity and he sees this world where people they don't care really about the well-being of others really
Yeah.
because the way his mom dies in the hospital, they give her the drug, the Soma drug, and she still dies and he's obviously
Mhm.
angry about that,
Yeah.
which who wouldn't be, right? And then he
Yeah.
tries to like start a rebellion and it doesn't really catch on at all. And then they treat him like he's a sideshow freak, right?
Yep. At the
Because
very end.
he's
Yeah.
just the outsider, John the Savage.
I thought it was kind of interesting too, that scene when his mom dies. There's the kids and they call it like the death training. And these kids that
Yeah,
they
that
come
was
in. But
dark.
now what's interesting is I think what's interesting is they're trying to like almost like inure the kids to like death itself because like they're very unemotional. It's
Mm.
almost like they were like trying to get them unemotional about life and death. And he was like super pissed about that too. He just thought that was super awkward, and he kind of wanted an intimate moment with his mom, and then the kids come in and threw that away. But that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a totally valid crash out, right? Because
Yeah,
here he is having the final human moment with his
yeah,
dying mother,
yeah,
and these little whippersnappers walk.
yeah.
By
Like
the way, I'm
walk.
trying my best not to cuss here. These little
Okay,
kids walk in and they
little
ruin the whole
kids.
thing.
Yeah,
And it's what are you doing? Like, what kind of world have
yeah,
is
yeah,
this?
for sure. Yeah.
But I asked you earlier about what aspect of society from this book you currently see in modern times, and my answer to that was consumerism, the
Yes.
fetishization of consumption as a means to distract and pacify. We're living through that now, right? That's
Yeah.
all. That's
Hyper
I'm
consumerist.
yeah, like that's what capitalism is, and I don't say that. Oh, capitalism bad. Obviously, there are bad aspects to it, a
Yeah.
lot,
There's good and bad aspects. Yeah.
but that's the big
And
one,
bad.
right? As long as you keep people and lazy
Yeah.
and entertained.
Yes.
You distract them from the real bad things that are happening in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
For sure.
and that could not be more relevant now than anything.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Capitalism. Yeah, for sure. Interesting. So you brought up the point about connecting Brave New World with our times.
Yeah.
One thing that's the opposite of that, which is interesting, is the very beginning, which we'll get into this as well, how this was written. That's another point. But the very beginning, when everyone at the very opening of Brave New World, like everyone's grown in like vats, or like everyone's taken from an embryo and they grow them, but then they also condition them. So they're
Yep.
conditioning, which is kind of weird. They're like conditioning like the embryos and the fetuses. It's weird. Like you can't really condition because then they're also like giving speech to these things, and like they're not going to know the language at that point. But that's besides the point. But anyway, they're conditioning, and they also pump in like different like chemicals and stuff like that. And but they also get conditioned once they are fully grown and a child, then they condition them to, oh, now you're going to work at this spot. You're going to be this person. You're going to work at the lab over here. You're going to be over here. You're going to be in this position here. You're going to be a bartender or whatever. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The fact that everyone is conditioned from birth or when they're grown in a lab, everyone's conditioned to be this one person. And so it's almost like you're predestined. So that's the exact opposite of our reality. So in our reality, like we're not really, we get conditions in
Is
various
it
ways.
though? Is it? I feel like in a way
You
it's
think it's the
almost
same?
not.
See,
Yeah.
I
Go
think,
ahead though.
yeah, yeah. But my point was like you are conditioned in various ways, but then also there comes a point at which you then get to choose what you want to do.
Oh,
So
I see what you're
unlike
saying.
unlike in Brave New World, it's almost like the conditioning is like who they become. But I think in my, I guess what I'm saying is like we have more free will. It feels like than in the book. It feels. I think John the Savage would kind of be like the person with free will because he's choosing it. So he's almost like coming into from our world to Brave New World and saying, "Oh, I choose this,"
Yeah.
because everyone in that world can't make a choice. But in our reality, it feels like we have a lot more choice. At least that's how I took it. But
I think you're right on I think on a high level you're pretty right about
yeah,
that. But I also think that, for example, this is just completely made up, but you hear
mm,
about some successful CEO, he's a billionaire,
mm,
blah blah.
yeah,
If his story is, oh, he grew up in a dirt poor household and
mm,
he went to night school and worked as a janitor and then started this business, it grew and grew. Now he's a
yeah,
billionaire CEO. That's always going to be the narrative, right? Because that's rare. Because most of the wealth, especially in the US and across the board, is like generational wealth, right? Like most people who are in
inherited.
high powered, high paying positions got there because of the genetic
Yeah,
lottery, winning the genetic
yeah,
lottery, not because it's always the ones that like worked hard to get to where they are that you hear about the most for a reason.
yeah.
I feel like in a way we are predisposed and preconditioned to like
You're talking about financially, huh? You're talking about like
just in society in general. Like I really do believe I'm more now than before. I believe that America has a caste system. It's a little bit more blurred
yes,
than in other
yeah,
countries like
right,
India, for
yeah,
example, who famously, infamously has a caste system. South Africa
yeah,
has a caste. The U.S. has always had a caste system.
yeah,
We don't recognize it as much because it's all about the individuality mentality, right?
yeah,
Oh, if you work hard enough and you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, you too can
yeah,
one day be a billionaire. But the truth is, you're a lot more likely to be homeless than you are to be a millionaire. You're
yeah,
way closer to homelessness and living on the
yeah,
streets than you are to
yeah.
becoming a millionaire
In the United States,
in the
yeah,
United States and probably
yeah,
in a lot of other places too.
yes.
But so yeah, I don't know. I totally get what you're saying. I go
I
back and
guess,
forth on that, you
yeah.
know?
You're talking, yeah. I feel like you're talking economic. I was thinking more just ideology, just how, people's values and like what they believe. I feel like that
Yeah.
was conditioned in Brave New World, but I get what you're saying too with caste system.
Well, that's the thing. If we had a better
Yeah,
education system, the poorest of the poor
yeah,
could read Shakespeare and go to
yeah,
college and have a
yeah,
philosophy that's in line with the other higher thinkers of the world or whatever.
yeah,
As somebody who works in education, I think
yep.
that it's not a perfect system at all,
No,
really.
I think it's pretty pathetic just because I feel like teachers, like everything is built off of education for the most part. So because even though you don't need to know, I don't know, it's just like, to become a doctor, you need a lot of education. Like to become a lawyer, you need a lot of education. But
Yeah.
teachers are not paid enough to then want to get those jobs. So because we're in a capitalist system, it then becomes more about just consuming stuff and less about knowing stuff to improve yourself and improve others. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it just becomes like the system of because they're focused on profits, they're not focused on thinking and education. So what happens is teachers get underpaid. And then that leads
Yeah.
to the system where it's, yeah, no wonder less people want to teach because it's underpaid, but it's important, but
And no
it's the
wonder why you
balance.
have an even bigger populace of uneducated, ignorant
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
vote against
Right.
their own self-interest all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So that's a whole nother point. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
but hey, we've been on a bit of a dystopian kick lately, and
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
people have drawn parallels between this book and 1984.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to talk about was Huxley's vision of a soft oppression through pleasure versus Orwell's hard control through fear. And by the way,
Yeah.
I'm reading this off my notes, so I'm not just
Okay.
making these words up. But
Yeah.
isn't that interesting
That's a
how, like,
good
in
idea.
this world, the oppression is through just drugs and entertainment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whereas in Orwell's world, it's just straight up of the boot on your neck
Just
constantly.
power and fear. Yeah.
But they're both dystopias. These are not worlds you would want to live in. And sadly, I think Brave New World is a lot closer to reality than 84 in some ways. Although we're getting there. But what do you think about that? What do you think about that
Yeah.
aspect of
Um,
oppression through pleasure?
I would say it's a bit of both. It's a mix. I think our world is more of a mixture of Orwell and Huxley because there's elements of power and fear. And then there's also elements in Brave New World, of course, that we were talking about with consumerism and materialism and distraction. So I think it's a mixture of both. I don't think it's as bad as either one, but I think there is a mixture of both, definitely in our society for sure. I think it's an interesting mix. It'd be interesting to combine both Huxley's ideas and Orwell's ideas. What's also interesting too is Huxley did write this before Orwell. It's kind of interesting.
And he wrote it before, he wrote it like pre-World War II. He
Yeah.
wrote it before a lot of the major
Yeah,
technological
that's true.
breakthroughs of the
That's
20th
true.
century. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting because like he made all this up in his mostly made it up in his mind.
Yeah.
This is before the nuclear bomb, even,
Yeah.
I think. So it's
I
how much
think
he
what's
made
kind of
up.
interesting about Orwell and Huxley too, talking about that, since this was before World War II, I think Orwell maybe had a leg up with historically because there was a lot of fear and power after the war, and so I think that held sway with a lot of people. So I think 1984 was more popular initially. I feel like it's taken over more because I think we always hear about a war or a battle or something, so I think fear is like more sells a little bit more. So I think 1984 is like I feel like people know about that one more. It's a little bit more popular, I think.
Yeah. Fear is more visceral
Yeah.
than,
But I do feel like, yeah, like we were talking about, like with the distraction. So I do think like our world is a mix of Huxley's and Orwell's vision. So,
yeah, especially with you look at entertainment and the stuff that's popular right now, the kind of shows and the kind of content that people are consuming. And there's a lot of brain rot out there, not
empty
just for kids, by
calories,
the way,
empty
for adults
calories.
too. Yeah, there's a lot of reality shows and like
Yeah.
the History
Yeah.
Network used to be a network that actually had history documentaries, and now
Mhm.
it's like
Ancient
Ice
aliens.
Road Truckers and
Oh
Pawn
yeah, ice
Stars.
truckers. Oh yeah, I forgot about that
And
show.
like I saw one the other day.
I
It's
used to
like
see that when I like commercials for that all the time. Is that still on? Is that
I
still
have no idea, but
okay?
I know well where I work. There's in our break room. There's two big plasma TVs, and one of them's
Mhm.
always running some History Network reality
Okay.
competition show.
Okay.
And I just like laugh every time. So I was like,
I
because
know,
people
yeah.
will sit there, like the employees that are on their
Oh
breaks,
yeah.
they'll sit there and they'll watch that stuff.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. I think
I like that's
it's
my
fine if you're like a teenager. I think we all go through those phases as a kid and a teenager. It's fine if you're a kid. If you're
yeah.
watching something entertaining, it's fine. But after a while, you're like, okay, maybe once in a while is okay. Some empty calories is fine, but
Yeah,
too much is not
exactly.
good.
But going back to the book, I have to say I didn't. So I'm still marinating on it because I barely finished it last night.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have to say though, I didn't completely hate it, but I didn't completely like it either. There's some
Okay.
aspects that I
Yeah.
thought, for example, the characters of John or excuse me, the characters of
Yeah.
Bernard and Helmholtz.
Yeah.
These guys don't
Bernard.
really do much. They're there and they're part of the
Yeah.
story and
Well,
they're
Helmholtz is
consequential.
just kind of there. Yeah. I feel like
Helmholtz is
Helmholtz is
just
kind
kind
of
of there.
there. Yeah.
Bernard,
He's
I don't
there.
really get his character. He seems like he just wants to be one of the cool kids, right? He brings John over back to
He
England and he thinks that John is going to raise his profile socially, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Bernard is interesting. It's almost like when Huxley wrote it, he didn't know who the main character was because I thought it was going to be Bernard. And then it feels like it's the savage. And then it takes over and he's like the main
Well,
guy.
he switches it. Yeah,
Because
it's Bernard
it's,
at first,
yeah.
and then they introduce Helmholtz at some point,
Yeah.
and
That
then
was
John
kind
the
of odd.
Savage. And
Yeah.
John, you see the last third of the story is mostly through John the Savage's
Yeah.
point of
Yeah.
view.
Yeah. I
But
think it could have been more effective if he had Bernard because Bernard comes from the conditioning. He like works at the facility. And I think it would have been more effective if maybe he had Bernard as the main character, but then John the Savage is like a big supporting piece. Because then he could have used him as, oh, why does this guy think that our world is so messy? Almost like studying him. But instead, what happens is he just switches over to John the Savage, and now we're just like focused
see,
on
I would have gone the other way. I would have had the
yeah,
book
John,
starting from John the
John the
Savage's
Savage.
perspective because
Yeah,
I
that
want to
could
know
work
more
too.
about his life prior to
Yeah,
him going to leaving New Mexico and going to England. And then Bernard comes in and we
yeah,
see it from John's perspective the whole time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's more because John is more interesting. And you
yeah.
could have
Definitely.
seen the world, the life that Bernard leads through John's eyes, and you could have still done the
Mm.
same story just from his POV completely.
Yeah.
I hate some of his
Also,
writing though. I hate the way some of the prose some of the words he uses like early on.
oh
They
yeah,
always say, if we're putting our writing hats on for a second, the thing you always read about is just keep it simple. Sometimes a shovel is just a shovel. I think I used this analogy
yeah,
before.
yeah. You said,
Sometimes
yeah,
an apple is just an apple.
yeah.
But Huxley likes to use like big $30 words. How say you, David? Did you
I mean,
catch on to that? I was complaining about that when we were reading it.
yeah, that's a critique. I wasn't bothered about. I didn't think there was like that many big words. There's some of that in the beginning, I guess, with some of the chemicals that he talks about. So I'm not gonna like, why is he going off on these chemical names? But honestly, yeah, about his writing real quick. Yeah, like when I first began this, so this is a warning for all the readers out there. The opening was terrible, like in my opinion.
I
I don't know
agree.
if it was
I
bad. It
agree.
was just bad. It was like, this is bad. I don't even know why he wrote this. What is this?
It's very
The
flat,
first,
right?
yes, the first two chapters are flat. There's no main character because you're just following these students around, and then the director is walking around
Yeah.
and he's just telling us how they grow people and they condition them. And it's very just exposition heavy and it's just not good because like you want to go into the world. Like I was thought, why don't we meet like Bernard like right away or with the girl? Like we should be with Bernard and I forget the girl's name, but
Lenina?
we should be with, yeah, what was it? Lena?
Lenina? Or
Lenina?
yeah.
Yeah, so we should be with Bernard or Lenina at the facility and we can learn about the world through them while they're working.
Right.
That would have been way more effective.
Or if you had gone my route with John's POV, you could have
Yeah,
easily had
exactly.
the whole like he could have been given, John could have been gone on a tour of
Yeah,
that whole system. And
yeah,
that
yeah.
really would have made him go, what
This
the F is
place. Yeah,
happening in this
yeah, yeah.
world? This is
Oh,
how
yeah.
people are made now?
That would have been more effective to have
I
a
think so.
character there in the world that is then seeing it. Instead, he's just telling the audience this thing through the director, and the
Yeah.
director's just we're just going through this facility, and it's like, where are we? What is this? So, and then also, oh yeah, I was gonna bring this up since you brought up the writing. This is my part about the writing. There's this section, there's this really weird section where you could tell that Huxley was almost struggling to come up with a story.
What
And it's
part?
almost like the page in my book, it's like the page 30 through 40. And it's right before chapter 4. There's this whole here, I'll even show you like a page of it. But
Yeah.
he literally jumps around all these different points of view and he goes back and forth between Lenina and like back to the facility.
Yeah. I
That
was
is
confused by
so
that too.
that was so confusing and so bad. I was like, this needed editing.
Yeah.
Because what happened was he probably was he was going to get to these characters, but he went back and forth and he did it through each paragraph. And it's just, he does it a ton. And this is just sloppy and just like
I
poorly edited,
hated that. I
Yeah,
hated
like,
that part
and
too.
that, I think that just shows its age kind of thing in a way. Because I think he was trying to find the story and he found it eventually. It gets better. But like that opening, in my opinion, was just not good. And you want to capture the reader. Maybe it's a modern audience thing. Maybe it's just my prejudice there.
That's part
We've
of
read
it.
so
Yeah.
much, but that was
It's
pretty
funny because the
disappointing.
first three chapters are, well, to me, they felt like a cold open
Yeah.
because that's what they were. Like, it's
Yeah.
all, like you said, it's all exposition. It's all
Position, yeah.
explaining
Heavy. Yeah.
how the whole process works. And yeah, it's a little dry.
Yeah.
It's
Lacks
a
character,
techno
lacks
babble.
emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, you have to establish the world as a writer and all
Right.
that stuff. Like, it makes sense. But
It goes too
yeah, could
long.
he have done it better? Obviously, that's what we got.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So speaking of that, adding on to that, I would say on that point alone, Mr. George Orwell, our dude Eric Blair, much better writer than Huxley, in my
I
opinion.
agree.
No offense to Huxley. There's great ideas in here, but I think as a writer, Orwell's got it by quite a bit on that one. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, see, there's the difference, right? Huxley
Yeah.
he grew up in a wealthy family.
Yeah.
Orwell, I believe, fought in like World War One or
He
World
was
War
in war. He
Two.
was in battle. Yeah.
He was in a war.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like guys like him and like Tolkien, like
Mhm.
these guys were war veterans.
Yeah.
So they wrote
He went
stories
through some
that were
stuff.
thematically about war. Obviously, Lord of the Rings has tons of war imagery and war
Yeah.
scenes and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 1984, like he touches. We really should just do that next, by the way, because we talk about 1984 in almost every episode we've done so
I
far.
know. Huh? We never
But
even,
but
yeah, we can't bring it up, but
I
yeah.
could read. I wouldn't mind. It's been a while since I read it, but yeah, like George Orwell, he saw the world from the lens of somebody who actually like saw death and destruction
Yeah.
firsthand, as
Right.
opposed to Huxley over here, who, as you mentioned, grew up
He's a
wealthy,
professor. Yeah.
probably didn't
Yeah.
go to war, and that's
Mhm.
fine. And I'm not judging him for that,
Yeah.
but it's two completely different viewpoints, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
both intelligent men, but you're right.
Right.
Orwell's a better writer.
Yeah. Yeah. No offense to Huxley, but he's got good ideas. But yeah, it would be interesting to read some other stuff from Huxley, but I was just like, I know this is his like most famous work. I don't know what other, I don't
Yeah,
have my
he's
copy of
got
his
some
whole work.
other stuff, but I've
His
only
famous
ever
work.
heard of Brave New World.
Yeah. And I did mention before too, it's interesting, but he was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature like a bunch of times. It was weird. I don't think
Yeah.
he won, but he was like nominated a bunch. But
Yeah, oh, he's got a bunch of books, man. The Genius and the Goddess, Ape and Essence, The Time Must Have a Stop. I like that title.
mhm. Yeah.
I like anything having to do with time. After
Yeah.
many a summer dies the swan, eyeless in Gaza. I wonder what that's about.
No, that's weird.
Lots of books to check out
Yeah.
by Huxley, lots
Mhm.
of poetry and stuff. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he was a good writer, no
Yeah.
doubt. But this is clearly like his magnum opus, Brave New World. And
Yeah. It gets a lot better,
it sounds
definitely.
like they've made it into a show twice now because they recently did it on
Yeah.
NBC like a few years back, and it looks weird. It doesn't look good at all. But
It's
have you
mind blowing.
watched any of
I
the?
have photos in my book.
Oh,
I'm actually
interesting.
one that I have photos from the show.
Have you watched that or any of the shows that have come
Are you
out?
talking about the new one or?
Anything that
No,
they've
I have
made.
not watched. Here's some more photos. I have not watched any of the
Hmm.
shows. I think
Did that show come
Robert
out in the
Redford.
70s? Do you
Yeah, this
know?
is like the 70s. Yeah.
It's funny how like the 70s was like an interesting time for sci-fi, right? There was so many sci-fi
Yeah, this
movies
is an
and
interesting
shows
one.
in that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Here's the death training scene right here with the kids. And
oh,
I
nice.
think it's Robert Redford, I think. I feel like it's Robert. Is that Robert
A very
Redford?
young Robert
I
Redford.
think so. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
Yep.
That era, that was like a it was a highlight for sci-fi.
Yeah, it
Um,
probably was, yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, back to the book. What do you think about? This is just a small thing. Bernard's full name is Bernard Marx. What do you think about the fact that his last name is
Oh yeah,
Marx?
Marx. Yeah, Karl
I thought
Marx.
that was
Oh yeah, this brings up the idea of names. Yeah, Bernard Marx. Obviously, he's making the connection with class. Talk about class and everything. How you have the poor people like on the Savage Reservation, New Mexico. So I don't know. I just feel like he's just bringing up the class thing. I think I almost think he forced it a lot in some ways because he has Bernard Marx, and then he also has. This is a funny thing, but we're talking about religion too. How like religion is gone from the society, and they
which
all
I'm
like
all for.
yeah, which is all good. But what's funny is they don't say God, they say oh Ford, like Henry Ford, which I thought was
Yeah,
pretty funny. I was like, that's pretty funny. It's like,
Ford
oh
is the new
Ford, like, oh
god.
Ford, yeah, Ford's
Yeah.
their God. And I was like, what's funny is they call it the Ford because like he started the whole like efficient factory making. So I was
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah. I didn't
efficient.
even think about that. So
Because I was
true.
like, oh yeah, because I read up on Wikipedia about him, and that's what he talked about. I was like, oh yeah, the efficiency of Ford, and so he becomes their god with like this factory, and so
Oh
the
my
fact that they make
Ford.
people, yeah, oh my Ford, so they make people like cars almost. So I thought that
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
I think that's the satirical aspect to the story,
yeah,
right?
there's some funny moments. Yeah, for
Huxley
sure.
knew what he was doing. He was clearly a very educated guy. And you know
Yeah.
why I think that John the Savage is in a way based on Pocahontas, because I don't know if you know this, the real life Pocahontas was taken from North America, America basically,
Yeah,
pre-America, by
yeah, yeah.
John Smith, took her to England, where people were like fascinated by her because they'd never seen an
Oh,
indigenous
okay.
person.
Yeah,
So the way
you're
that
right.
John is treated in this book is the
Yeah,
way it
yeah,
reminded me of the story of the real life Pocahontas. So
yeah,
I think Huxley had to have known that. Like he's obviously an educated
yeah,
guy.
for sure.
And I think that John, there was probably some inspiration there. So I found that
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else? There's so much symbolism. I feel like Soma to me is that I know in the book it's like a drug, but that
Okay.
represents like all the ills of society, right? Like you take
Mhm.
something to forget other things, to not feel other things. What do you think is the drug of choice in real life, David? Not literal drug, but would
Drug
you
of
say
choice.
it's TV? Would you say it's, I don't know,
Uh,
like
Money.
politics now and how politics has become a big entertainment
I
venue?
would say it's money. Money is the drug of choice.
Money's here's the money. Don't feel so bad, kid.
Money, yeah, yeah,
Have a couple
pretty
bucks.
much.
I wish somebody
Here's
would
some
give
money.
me money to feel better,
Here's
actually.
some money.
That wouldn't be so
Um,
bad.
yeah, but I would say there's a good quote about Soma that I want to bring up. So this is the quote. It says, "You can carry at least half your mortality about in a bottle. Christianity without tears. That's what Soma is." I like that quote. It's like
Ooh,
Christianity
where's that
without
from?
tears. That's in the book. That's in the book. That's
Is
page.
it the book we
Yeah.
just read?
That's
I don't
right.
remember that.
Yeah,
That's
right, right.
funny.
It's right before chapter 18. So it's like a couple pages behind chapter 18 because your book is probably different lengthwise. So,
Yeah. Does yours
but
have an about the book section in the back?
it does
I
not.
just
But
noticed
if
that.
you find chapter 18, it's just
Yeah.
like two pages before the end of chapter 18. So it's like near
Okay.
the end of chapter 17. But yeah, you can, it
Wait,
says
near the end of chapter 17 or the
the end of
beginning of
chapter
chapter 18?
17, the end of chapter 17.
Oh,
It's two pages from the end. So
this
it's
is what
right.
we, from here on out, we should highlight quotes from the book that we like and bring those onto the show. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah. That's always a good idea. Yeah. But yeah, Christianity without tears, that's what Soma is. I liked how the drug in the book replaces religion in some way. People are like irreligious,
Do
but the
you
drug
think that
itself is
was
like,
Huxley being pro-religious in a way? Do you think that was his way of saying that religion is good and we need it in society? I don't know if he was a
maybe,
religious man, but
yeah, I don't know. Maybe just like we always need something. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe, whether it's religion or not. Like these people have a drug. Some people have a religion. Some people have money. Some people have, I don't know, their dogs and cats. I don't know. Some people need something. So maybe that, I think that's what he's going at.
Shakespeare. Let's just worship Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare was the greatest writer of our time. You
Yeah.
know?
And then also George Orwell talks about Shakespeare too, which is kind of interesting in 1984. Speaking of the link there, there's actually references to Shakespeare in that one too. If you want to be taken seriously, just mention Shakespeare apparently. And then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's an important book.
They teach it in high school. How can you not?
Yeah.
Everybody should at least know the story of Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
Othello.
Should be knowledgeable
Uh,
about some of them for sure.
yeah. What's the one? Mac something? I can't think of it now. MacArthur? No.
Macbeth.
Macbeth.
MacArthur.
Thank you. MacArthur.
MacBrother. Macbeth. Close enough. This
Close
is his
enough.
brother. Macbeth's brother.
Anyway, okay. So what else?
Oh, I want to bring up another thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we
Go
talked a bit
ahead.
about Soma, talked about consumerism. I wanted to bring up, this was really weird to me, but the character of Lenina, she wants to have sex with like, every guy. And I thought that was interesting because
That's the world,
the
though.
promiscuity in the book, even a lot of the guys, they're talking about like a lack of intimacy, and it also really shows up in the relationships, which I thought was pretty interesting. How everyone wants to like have sex with everyone else, and they're very open with like, their partners, and they're like, "Oh, have you slept with this person? Have you slept with that person?" And Lenina has a friend, and they're always trying to get all these different guys. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It's, oh, no one like they don't have emotional attachments to like their partners, which is kind of interesting.
Exactly.
They all just want to have
Yeah.
like relationships with all these other people, which is
Yes.
just crazy to think about. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because in this book, sex is just another thing that people just
Yeah,
do.
it's just
And,
like an
and like
activity
you
to
said,
play
there's no
fun.
emotional attachment or anything.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just a
another
fun.
activity. Take some
Yeah,
soma, have some sex.
yeah. Watch
That's it.
TV, go to
Getting your
movies, whatever.
helicopter taxi and go to the
Oh
next
yeah.
person's house to have
And
sex.
then, yeah, yeah, have sex. And so they do that, and then Lenina's always trying to get with. She likes Bernard, and then they go on a date, and then she also, I think she goes with Helmholtz. I don't remember, but then she also tries to get with John the Savage, but John the Savage doesn't want to have a
No,
relationship.
he gets
He's the only real
enraged.
one. He wants intimacy. He wants something real, and he talks about that too, where you could tell he's like pissed. And then there's that scene, which was actually probably one of the better moments of the book, is just when she's on a date with him, and they go to the feelies, like the movies where you can feel
The
things, which is
feelies. I
interesting.
like
Go
those.
the feelies.
I'm gonna start
That was
calling them
kind of
that from now on.
yeah, but it's kind of interesting because they can feel stuff like in their chairs and stuff like that. They can feel like the emotion or they feel like sensations and stuff. But then yeah, John is the whole time like Ninia's trying to get with him. He doesn't want it because like she's like taking her soma and he doesn't like that. And he's just this is fake and he's you could tell he does not want to be there. So I thought that was probably one of the highlights of the book where you could just see John the Savage wants like something real rather than this fake stuff that people have. So
Well,
I
yeah,
kind of like that.
that's the big thesis of the book. From
Yeah.
John's point of
Yeah.
view, the world is so fake.
Yeah. It's just
And that hits hard because
yes.
I see that now. Like the world does feel so fake, even though there's
Yeah.
obviously real life consequences.
Yeah.
So many things feel like politics feels fake, right?
Yes.
Even
Yeah.
though, again,
It's important.
consequences.
It's important. There's
Important.
consequences, but there's
Yeah,
also a
like
lot of fake parts too.
all these, all this infrastructure that we've built to have a modern society, there's cracks in it. And it makes it feel like everything's just a facade, right? It's like you're on
Yeah.
a studio backlot and you see a candy shop, but it's not really a candy shop. It's just a flat wall that is made to
Yeah.
look like a candy shop from far away to fool you.
Yeah.
But
Just some of that.
yeah, man, yeah, that's why it's such a depressing read in a way because it's just so, like, it's similar to Parable of the sower, where it's like you
Parable was even, yeah, Parable I think was
see
harder for
so
me, but
many
this one's
things.
pretty dark too.
That's
But
what I mean. You see so many things that like this is already a thing. And not only is it a thing, it's actually worse in real life than what this author could have imagined to
you think
be
it's
in
the
a
worst? You
way.
think it's the worst than Brave New World?
Certain aspects
I
of
don't
it,
know.
yeah.
Maybe. I would
Even
just say they're
fiction,
different. Yeah.
entertainment.
Yeah. Okay.
People who have parasocial relationships with celebrities,
Mm.
right? Like
Yeah.
toxic. That's
Oh
not
yeah, that's
good.
weird. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very unhealthy. You shouldn't have a
Yeah.
parasocial relationship with somebody because they're famous.
Yeah.
And don't and Swifties don't come at me, okay? I'm just saying in general. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
And
you can like their
K-pop fans
music,
don't
but
come at
yeah.
me, okay? I'm just
Right,
saying. And Last of Us fans don't. I'm just kidding.
right.
But yeah, you know what
Um,
I'm saying though. Like I don't have to
yeah,
explain.
I get it.
Um,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Also, yeah, so speaking of the relationships, one last thing was the kids too. There's like the scene towards the beginning where they mentioned it a couple times, but even the kids themselves, he talks about how they engage in like erotic play, like the kids. And they're like, I was like, this is weird. I don't know if like now, even for me reading, I'm like,
that's where I closed the book the first time I tried to read
okay,
it.
did you stop? You're like, what is this? I was like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't have written that. I'm like, unless he wants to go into that theme, but I thought it was fine when it was with adults and the relationships. But when it was with the kids, I was like, because it's not like a main thing, but I think he was just going towards like the conditioning and the desensitization towards relationships. That's what he was getting at. So it made sense because he's trying to say, oh, they start very early when they're kids, when they shouldn't be doing this stuff, and that way it, like desensitizes them to like a relationship. So I think that was the point of it, but it was messed up.
Have you ever read Stephen King's It?
I have not read it.
I haven't either, but
Yeah.
I
There's some
there's some
moments in there.
similar stuff in that book that people
Okay.
are like, what the WTF, Stephen
Yeah.
King? Why'd you write
Pretty,
this?
pretty messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, very weird, but
Yeah.
it makes sense in Brave New World because, like you said, it's the
Yes.
desensitization. How do you say
Right.
it? I don't even know that.
Desensitization.
Desensitizations.
Desensitization is
I
kind of
can't
hard.
talk. I'm very bad at
Yeah.
talking, but it's
Yeah.
about and just normalizing that in general.
Just
Because like, look at
conditioning. Just
Lelina. All
conditioning.
Lelina does is want to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
sex, like you said.
That's
Like
it. That's all she wants to
that's
do.
what it is. That's
Yeah.
what they've been
She goes to
preconditioned.
work and then she wants to go on a date with a guy and that's it. Okay.
Yeah, it's all about the preconditioning for that and
Here's
normalizing
some
it.
Soma for you. Yeah.
Oh, is that
This is
LaCroix?
my carbonated water. It's my LaCroix carbonated
LaCroix,
water.
oh, LaCroix. Oh, fancy,
Yeah.
fancy.
Very good. I like my carbonated.
By the way, it's called the World State. That's what it's called, the
Oh,
World
okay, we'll see.
State.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
anyway, so let's go to the ending. What did you think about what did you
Oh
think
yeah.
about
Oh, the ending.
John's
Okay.
ending in this book? How did that make you feel? Because that made,
I want to ask you first on that. Let me get your
well,
views on John's ending.
I was like not
Thing.
surprised. I didn't see it coming, but I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised either at the same time.
Uh-huh.
It was a very dark turn. Obviously, he
Yeah.
hangs himself, and it makes sense given everything that he's gone through and he'd seen and experienced beforehand. I was like, yeah, I didn't figure this book was going to have a happy ending for anyone, especially not
Mhm.
him. Yeah, that really messed me up a little bit when I read that part last night.
Okay. Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, at the same time, that figures. Like that figures.
Okay. So yeah, the fact that John was you brought up the actors too, like famous actors. And so what happens at the end is he goes to this island, goes to this lighthouse. Oh yeah, him and
Napoleon's himself.
yeah.
He
But
yeah,
him and
exiles himself.
Bernard and Helmholtz, they all get like exiled, but John decides to exile himself to the lighthouse area, like a secluded island. But what happens is some people like reporters come, they find him, they see this guy like living by himself. He's being a big weird. He's like growing stuff now. He's like living off the land, and the people think he's a big weirdo. And they start taking pictures of him, filming him. And more people show up, like helicopters show up, all this news. And so he gets flooded with news and he becomes this big like celebrity all of a sudden. And he gets bothered and he wants to like he's like throws rocks at him. He's like, get away, get out of here, kind of thing. So it's funny that he becomes like this actor. He becomes this like big celebrity at the very. He was already like when he comes back to society, he's like a big shot, but then he wants to get away from it. But then people see him again. They keep coming back to him, and he wants none of it. So I thought that was pretty interesting how he's
That
almost
was the
becoming famous.
TMZ of the book.
Yeah, he's like the TMZ. He's famous for being a weirdo. He's a weirdo because he's real. But
He's a weirdo because he's a human.
yeah, because he
That's the
doesn't want to
thing.
be distracted.
They're not humans, you
Yeah, they're
know?
basically
They're
anti-human.
manufactured people.
Yeah, basically.
John the Savage is a real human.
Yeah. So I did like that ending, that part, but then at the end when he decides to just end his life all of a sudden, I didn't really like that because I was like, this guy had just told Mustafa Mon that I want reality and I want pain. Here's your pain. Now I was like, could happen. And in fact, I was like, doesn't he eventually they probably would have just gone away. And I was like, maybe if he just dealt with this like a little bit longer, like why did he get so like he's living off the land? And I would have had it done. I would have ended it a little differently. I wouldn't have had it in his life. I would just had maybe you could do like a couple scenes where like they keep bothering him, but eventually it just goes away and just ebbs off, and people lose interest. That would have been better for me, where he just lives off the land by himself and he just this lonely existence. I would have preferred that rather than him just like, oh, screw this all. Because at the end he got what he wanted and he was exiled, and that's how I would have played it out. But I don't know.
You know what they say, David? The ultimate form of self-expression is offing yourself. So
I guess so.
I think that was
I don't know.
the way
I
I
guess.
interpreted it. I don't know.
Yeah. But
Obviously,
obviously, yeah, obviously he was going for he's obviously sad, depressed about the world and like he doesn't want to
yeah, I
be
would be
part of
too, you
this
know.
kind of like culture anymore kind of thing.
I would be
Or,
too. He loses everything in the end if he even had
yeah.
anything to begin with. He loses his
Mhm.
mother. He loses his world, right? Like
Yeah.
they took him out of they plucked him out of New Mexico, took him
Yeah.
to
He
England.
comes here. Yeah, yeah.
It's a strange. It's not just a brave new world. It's a strange new world. It's a society that to him is completely backwards.
Yeah.
And so he self-exiles. And so what does he have left? What's he going to
Yeah.
do? Read Shakespeare for the rest of his life?
Yeah, maybe.
Is he gonna? What's he gonna do? I don't know. And
Yeah.
I think that's what Huxley was going for. Was like
Yeah.
he has
Maybe.
nothing. He is
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
This artificial world took everything from him, and
Yeah.
now he's
A little bit.
just what is he? A husk of
Yeah.
his former self. I don't know.
Yeah. I
So,
would have preferred, yeah, I just would have preferred more just the exile by itself was like kind of would have ended it rather than going
yeah.
with overly dramatic. I thought it was overly dramatic and just, oh, I'm just gonna off myself now. I was like, eh.
I thought it was a bit of a gut punch in a good way when I
Yeah.
got to that
Yeah.
part. I was like, Huxley's
Yeah.
keeping it real.
That's one of the one things too. I do remember the book reading it. I remember that's how it ended. I was like, okay, I know how it ends. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things I remembered big time. But yeah,
Well,
interesting.
that's a Brave New World in a nutshell. There's so much more we could talk about, I think, but I don't know. Is there anything else that stood out to you? To me, the last third of the book is the
Everything.
best part. The last third of the
Yeah.
book is the best
I would say the last half for me is good. I would say that's like the last half is like a good like 4 out of 5 stars. But because Huxley took so long to get the story going till we meet the characters, till we finally see his big themes coming through. And because the intro and there's lots of sections that are just poorly written, poorly edited, I gotta give it like a 3 out of 5 overall, probably. But yeah, overall his themes are great. And the best part is it's super short. So even if I was telling you this, Adrian, I texted you, I was like, it's a short book, so I know I'll get through it quick, even if it's not very good. It's very short. So I don't know how many pages that one has. Mine is only like 180 or 170 something, but it's really short. So
Mine's
good time.
259.
Okay. So you have probably
Um,
bigger text on yours. But yeah, I would say it's like a 3 out of 5 for me.
it's funny you bring that up, how it took him a while to get the story going. And some
Yeah.
authors are really bad about that. I'm reading a book
Yeah.
right now. I'm about 35% in. 35%
Uh-huh.
into a book is pretty
Yeah.
far in.
Yeah.
And nothing has happened except just world building and character
Okay.
building.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's like
Yeah.
nothing else has happened. And the
Right.
character is annoying me.
Okay.
But it's a relatively short book, so I'm gonna
Okay. You
soldier
can go
through
through
it.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, I hate that. I hate that. Don't
Yeah.
authors, I guess it's a modern thing, maybe.
Probably.
Authors don't take too long to get the story going.
Yeah. George R. R. Martin, we're talking to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
His kind of world building, I feel like the world is the character in a way. So
Yeah.
they're so massive.
You know who doesn't take forever to get the story going is Mr. David Angelo and his book available now called Project Red Planet
On Amazon. Yeah.
on
Project
Amazon.
Red. Yeah. Better
Yeah.
written than Aldous Huxley. At
Yeah,
least
you have Ort leaving the moon to Earth in like the first four chapters, right? Within the first
yeah.
four chapters.
Yeah. I was thankful that you thought that the book I think in my book, for people who have not read it yet, there's lots of stuff that happens in my book, so I was concerned that I had too much and it was too slow. But I think because I have so many things happen, that
Yeah.
there's lots of action and plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your book is twice as long as Brave New
Yes,
World.
yes, it's quite big. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
tells you something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, hey, is there any craft questions we wanted to discuss? And I feel like we did a good just on
Yeah,
Brave
pretty good
New World.
on Brave New World. Maybe on craft. Maybe if we just want to hit a few minutes on like exposition or something like that. If you want to talk
Yeah.
about exposition a little bit.
This
What
isn't a
you're
book,
thinking about it.
obviously. Christopher Nolan is the worst about exposition in the
Right.
sense that
We're
he
talking about books
just
here. This is movies.
I know, but just in general,
Okay, just not in general.
what I was going to get to was
Okay.
don't just verbalize all your exposition. There's ways to
Okay.
sprinkle it in. There's
Yeah.
ways to do it where you're not just
Okay.
vomiting exposition.
Maybe.
And yeah, Christopher
You think
Nolan is just the
Christopher Nolan
first
does that with
example
his
that comes to
movies?
mind. What's
Hmm.
that?
So you think Christopher Nolan just has the characters like talk about too much, like where he's
Oh yeah,
hmm.
constantly. And sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Like Tenet. I had to watch a 30 minute.
Tenet was not his best. That was
It
definitely
becomes a better movie when
very
you
confusing.
understand what the F is going on. And I had to watch a 30-minute
That's
video
a
on YouTube to
yeah.
understand the mechanics of that world. Once
Yeah.
you understand it, actually, I think it's his boldest movie
Interesting, but
yet. Bolder than
hmm.
Oppenheimer, bolder than Dunkirk, bolder,
I
which
like
I
it.
thought was boring, by the way.
Oh.
Boring than all.
I don't know, Inception. Okay, I have Tenet and Inception, and to me, it's Inception.
Inception is easier to understand without having to read supplemental material.
Yeah. Oh, that's better though for an audience because you want to come into okay, this is a dream world. I get it. You know?
Yeah.
Like with Tenet, it's very confusing.
But like it's his boldest movie.
Probably.
It's his
Yeah.
boldest movie yet. I wish that he'd found a better way to explain
Well,
it so that you
yeah.
didn't have to watch a YouTube video, but here we are.
Okay.
Where do you stand on exposition? Because obviously you
Um,
wrote Project Red Planet, you have
yeah,
exposition in there, but I
I
feel like
did. I
you
do.
did a
I
pretty
do.
good job
Yeah,
of
I think my exposition is just one prologue, so I do the prologue. I think my book needs a prologue because I think it depends. I think some books need a prologue because I feel like mine needs that setup. I feel like
you
some
didn't really
author.
have a prologue though, did you?
No, I did have I had the 1969 moon landing, the fake,
Oh, that's true.
because it's not about that, but without that moment, you're not going to understand what's happening now. So I feel like since such a big moment that we all know about, I wanted to include that. So that way we know, like, okay, they're making a movie about Mars now, just to give the reader some grounding on that. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like some books don't need it, some ideas
And
don't
see,
need it.
you know how you could have done that? And this is just me. This is just
Uh-oh,
me
here you want to end
talking.
my book? Go ahead.
No, no, it's fine what you did. What I'm saying is, like, if you wanted to do it a different way, how
Yeah.
I would have. This is how my mind works.
Okay. How would
I
you
would
do
have
it?
had Neil visiting a NASA or space museum and linearly going through all like the hallways and getting the
Okay.
story of
Like learn
the moon
about.
landing. But then you get to the conspiracy part because this isn't just a regular museum. This is like a conspiracy museum.
Okay.
So
So you're doing a
maybe
conspiracy.
just dedicated to just the moon landing and how it was all faked.
Okay.
That's how I would have done it because
Yeah, yeah.
now you're expositing, but you're doing it in a way where it's you're not back in time. You're in the
Right.
present.
Yeah, I did think about that too, just talking about exposition, but yeah, for my book in particular. Yeah, I did think about that. I was like, oh, I initially didn't want to do a
I
time
like that
jump.
you had totally not Stanley Kubrick, so it's
But
fine the
yeah,
way you did
but
it.
yeah, yeah. I just want to have crazy fun with it. I was like, I'm going to 1969. But yeah, as far as other books, like definitely don't do exposition like Aldous Huxley. Okay. Don't just info dump. Don't info dump for 30 pages
Yeah.
about your world.
It's
If you're
like two
building a
chapters
world,
too
it's
of
two or three
infodumping,
chapters before we really get to the main characters. Because he just has a director. It's not even Mustafa Mandia. It's just one of the directors of his facility. He
which we
described
never see or hear from again.
yeah, he's barely in it after that. Like he's here and there, but yeah, it's just I don't know. Don't do the info dump. And Huxley just does that where he just tells us, "Oh, this is what we do. This is our world. This is our
I will
environment."
say though,
Like, yeah,
I
like
will say this book, all the major dystopian novels, but including this book, should be required reading in school. It's fine that you want to teach Shakespeare.
yeah,
It's fine that you want to teach the classics like Huckleberry Finn
yeah.
and what's the one with the kid that is angry all the time. I
Kid
can't
thing.
even think of the dang name of
Catcher in
it.
the Rye. I don't know.
Catcher in the Rye. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Oh, there
It's
you go.
fine to show to teach those books,
Yeah,
but you should also have the speculative side of things
yeah,
so that kids can know from the get-go.
yeah,
If we're not careful, kids, this could be our world someday. And
yeah,
maybe it will be, and maybe it
yeah.
is. You know
We
what I
got lots
mean?
of Soma here.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far
Well,
as exposition, what else on exposition? I was gonna come up with something else. But yeah,
you're
I guess I would
expositing
say.
right now, David.
I guess so. Yeah. Here's my exposition for my day. I woke up, I brushed my teeth. What if every author began like that? Like I woke up and brushed my teeth. I watched
Yeah.
some TV.
That's
Took a
every film
shower.
student's first movie.
I guess, yeah, I know. It is funny. Like when you first start writing, I remember like when I first started writing, I was like, I guess he wakes up. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
what is my character doing? He
It's because
wakes
we
up.
think
Okay.
too linearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the stuff that happens in a person's day isn't interesting at all,
Yeah. For the most
right?
part.
But yeah, no, this is a great subject because exposition is like it's the pebble in every writer's shoe. How do you
Mhm.
exposit without, like you said, dumping it all across 30
Although
pages or whatever?
I think he would have been better off to have a character and just follow the character, like I said, and then follow that world. And we learn about the world through the character. But I was going to ask you about, we talked about George R. R. Martin a little bit. Do you think his world is so massive and there's so many characters? I almost feel like the first book is its self-exposition. If you want to build a saga or an epic, it's okay then to, you're going to take your time then at that point. Like if you want to build a whole world, it might be very different where I would essentially say, because he has history, he has back all these kings and queen, I mean, it's almost like a historical epic. And so if you're going to go that big, you may need like mini books. That's
Yeah.
different.
I have to say, the first Game of Thrones book is a masterclass in world building
Yeah.
and character development
Yeah.
and just writing story in
Oh,
general
yeah.
that you could possibly read. And it's 500 or 600 pages. It's a thick book. And you will burn through that book so quickly.
I think it's like 900. Isn't it like 8 or 900? It's under
It's
a
a
thousand.
long book, but it doesn't
8 or 900.
feel that long
I remember
because his
reading it.
writing is so tight. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's a page turner at the same time.
Oh
So I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
with if you want to learn like big exposition, go that way with lots of character, lots of history. But you got to be in the, he writes a lot of action and then you go back and forth between action and explaining and introducing characters.
Well,
Like
yeah.
Eddard Stark will talk about like a past king or something, or they'll go in a
Yeah.
crypt and they'll talk about this uncle, and that's how you do it. You want to
Yeah.
show it through them doing the things and the actions
But
rather
then
than just
the other
boring
thing
your
that he'll
reader.
do that's funny to me is he'll describe in detail like the trickle of oil when a
Yeah,
character's biting into a turkey
yeah,
leg or
I
something.
like that, but yeah, it's
It's good. No,
crazy.
it's good. The way he does it actually works. Like he knows how to
Yeah,
add texture to every
it's good.
scene.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a masterclass in writing.
yeah,
It really is. It's too
yeah.
bad he hasn't finished the darn series, but
Yeah, I don't think he will, unfortunately. He had a recent interview and it's just probably not, but
Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't just pay someone and just finish it for him.
He
Give him
should.
all your
Yeah.
notes.
Oh yeah,
Let him write it. Let him
he
finish it.
should.
Then you read it. You give your
He
notes. Go
did. He
back and
did say
forth.
he doesn't want anyone else to write it.
James Patterson's been hiring ghostwriters for decades. Why can't he do the same? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he should honestly. Yeah,
What's that?
he should honestly because he knows all the history and the lore. So it'd be a perfect marriage to have him and like a super fan that's also a great writer. There's plenty out there that would
Yeah.
love to write
James
and help
Patterson
him.
is one of the most successful, prolific
Yeah,
authors
yeah, I don't
of the
understand. Yeah.
last 30 years.
I literally think if he gets like a three team, he should get two other authors to help him,
He
and then we
needs the
both do
guys
that.
from the Expanse novels because they
Yeah,
trained
yeah,
under him.
for sure.
Not
Yeah, like
trained, but he was like their mentor in a way.
okay, yeah.
And they
Well,
could
yeah, because like he can be the final editor, the final voice,
the
so
final boss.
it passes has to pass through him,
Yeah.
and he'll improve it. And yeah, I mean, it would make it so much
But
better.
you know what
But
it is? I think it's ego. I think
oh yeah, at this point, he's built so much on that it's his. So we all know that. So I think I don't know. For me, it's weird. He's like a multimillionaire now, and it's
right.
dude, just finish it. Just finish it. We
Yeah.
all went into this thing.
If I had his kind of money, I would
Like,
just
do
hand it
it.
off to somebody
Hire some, yeah.
and I would go on vacation in Portugal, David, or
Yeah.
Spain.
Or to a lighthouse
In Brazil? No,
and Brazil.
maybe Brazil, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I'm kidding. Where
And
they
have
speak
all,
Portuguese.
yes, and have all the Soma, maybe. I don't know. Distract yourself.
Yeah, that's called Ozempic, my friend.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. I'm just talking smack. Yeah, exposition. It's like I said, it's the bane of every
Maybe,
writer.
yeah, maybe we could do another podcast too about more exposition at some point too, and even like conclusions too, because we could bring that up too. So
Endings.
talk
Like, yeah, what are the best
endings.
endings? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
Hey, I like this. I like this. This
yeah,
has been a good discussion.
yeah,
Um, we did it, right? I think that's
yeah.
good.
It's
Brave
pretty
New
good.
World. Aldous
Check it
Huxley.
out.
Read it.
Check
It's
out the old version. Check out the new version.
I want to
Pretty.
watch. I kind of want to watch the show, that NBC show that came out a few years back.
I'll probably watch an episode too. I want to see how it is.
It
Yeah.
doesn't look good, by the way.
It doesn't
It
look.
looks bad, but I'm willing to. I'm
Wait, you're
just
talking about the newer
curious.
one? You're talking about
The
the newer
newer
one?
one. The newer one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I'll figure
I'm
it out.
I'm curious to see what
Yeah.
if they pulled it off.
Check it out.
They did a Fahrenheit 451 movie on HBO with Michael B. Jordan a few years back,
Okay.
and that was a complete like
Yeah.
failure.
Okay. That
But
happened.
this one, I'm interested to see
Yeah.
what they.
Might be
And that's
interesting.
another future topic of discussion. Since we want to do a movie related
Yeah.
episode, we could do like, what are some of the best movies, or some movies that are actually better than the book? Believe it or not. I'll say one really quick.
Movies. Yeah.
Annihilation. I thought the movie is way better than the book.
Okay.
That's
I
just me.
never saw the book. I never read the book.
The movie's great,
Okay.
and the ending is great. It's a whole different vibe between the
Yeah.
book and the movie.
Okay.
But
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, hey, let me do my plugs really quick. I haven't mentioned it, I think, yet, but I do a movie podcast called the Never Seen It Podcast that's available on wherever you get your podcast from. Check us out. We just released an episode on the movie Inland Empire, which
I
is a
just
fun
saw that, by the
discussion.
way.
Yeah, check out the Never Seen It Podcast, neverseenitpodcast.com. You can follow me at Books Too Big on TikTok and Boots Too Big everywhere else. And then you can follow this show. We're the Book Brothers Podcast. We have officially been on YouTube.
Yes.
YouTube audio, if you have it, that's YouTube's podcast app now. Check us out on there.
We got new fancy thumbnails too.
New
Thanks to
fancy
Adrian.
thumbnails,
Thank you
thanks
for your
to,
thumbnails.
yeah, I made them on Canva. I'm very proud of my thumbnails.
Yeah.
This will be episode 8
Yeah.
on YouTube. So yeah, follow us on there. And we're also on we're both on Blue Sky.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to give your plugs really quick, David, anything you're working on, anything you want to, besides your book, of course.
Sure. Yeah. Check
Yeah.
out my book, Project Red Planet, on Amazon right now, paperback and ebook. And then, yeah, my YouTube channel, I actually just published a children's story, which hopefully you and Monty want to watch it. Let me know what Monty thinks. I like doing children's stories speaking about exposition, that gets quick because I do very short stories sometimes that are,
Yeah, we should mention
I
you
get
do a
to the point.
science channel. You do a
On
e-learning
the science channel. Yeah.
science channel. It's
Science and
great.
learning. Yeah.
You do little
So I have a lot of
graphics.
fun. I have a lot of fun stories and animations on there and a lot of science. Yeah. But I just posted a new children's story. So check that out. Yeah.
All right. Hey, that's the show. Follow us on all the platforms. Tell us what you think about Brave New World if you've read it. Tell us, is this your favorite dystopic novel, or what is your favorite dystopian novel? And who knows, maybe next week we'll do 1984, or we'll do something. Maybe we've been on a bit of a dystopian kick, and I don't mind being on this
Maybe we should do a
dystopian.
utopia kick. Maybe that's what we should do now.
Maybe, yeah. There's only 2 books that come to mind that are super short that I've read. You could probably read them in a couple nights. The Monk and Robot books. I'll tell you after the show.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, maybe we'll do Utopia. Utopia.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's it, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Yep.